Father God, we pause. We thank you for the blessings you've shared with us. We're thankful for the opportunity and the privilege to serve our constituents, and we pray for wisdom today as we make decisions for them. We pray for wisdom. Be with those, our first responders, those who carry a badge and uniform. Watch over them and keep them safe. I did this prayer, what is like, and we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is Commissioner Stringer be acting as our president today and running the meeting, or did he delegate that down to us?
He never made a mention.
It goes to you, Mike.
All right, I'll take it then.
All right.
Okay, everyone was sent the minutes from June 16th regular session and June 16th executive session. If you've had a chance to review those, I'd accept a motion to pass.
Motion to accept.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Gotta be roll call.
I got a roll call. Jeff Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover?
Yes.
Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, we had a payroll of $305,461.48 and $299,463.90, and then claims totaling $1,009,145.18.
Motion to approve the financials.
Seconded.
All in
Jeff
favor?
Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover?
Yes.
Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
All right, then we can go to the sheriff.
I was handed this list. You want to read it, or I can read it?
Well, go ahead. You got it.
We have 65 inmates in jail currently. We have 33 at our pre-trial circuit and 25 pre-trial superior. We have 8 DOC and 0 F6. And he said there is no other comments in regards to the renovations at the jail. So,
Perfect. All right, then. To you, Nate.
Good evening.
good evening.
First up, we've got a utility permit from Surf Broadband. I did not include the set of plans with that, as it was over 200 pages, but it's underground utility duct for fiber optic, primarily in Jackson and Chester Townships, so I'm recommending that for approval.
I'll make that motion to approve the easements for that.
Second that. I'll second that.
Jeff Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover?
Yes.
Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
All right, second item, bridge number 71 on County Road 200 West over Rock Creek. I've got an LPA consultant contract for construction inspection from American Structure Point that you guys should have. I guess I presented that to Ted and Lisa last week, and I'm recommending signatures on that as well.
Yeah, I had a chance to review that, have no issues if you have no issues, so I'll make a motion to accept that consulting contract.
I'll second that motion.
Jeff Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover?
Yes.
Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
2025 road conversions. We raked through the list last week and kind of worked through a priority scoring system. Right now, we've got 7 segments that have 100% signed right-of-ways and ready for conversion. It's just kind of trying to weigh options on, you know, how long they've been on the list, what kind of benefits there are with each one, how many homes are located on the section, things like that. So one thing I wanted to mention was that we are falling a little bit behind on some of the routine work like pipe replacements, keeping our ditches draining, and doing patching in the fall in preparation for the winter. So I would like to recommend 2 segments for conversion for 2025. And these are just recommendations, so if we need to discuss this further, or you guys have additional input, I'm open to that, and we can kind of take that into consideration. But the 2 segments that I'm recommending for 2025 are Meridian Road from 1000 north to 1100 north, and 200 west from State Road 124 to 100 north.
200 west from 124 to 100 north?
Correct.
Gotcha, thanks. I know somebody will be happy on that one. Do you want to accept that tonight, or you want us to stew about it and make that decision at our next meeting?
I'll leave that up to you.
I'll defer to the president and the vice president.
Yeah, I'd like to, let's wait until the next meeting so we can look at those, because I still have questions about Meridian, or is it Meridian Road between 7 and that last 4 miles? Isn't that the one we still get bus issues on?
There is, I believe, on that stretch, a holdout on that stretch.
I'd like to wait till the next meeting to make that decision.
Very good.
I'm fine.
I'm fine with that.
From legal about what we can do there.
Okay. 2025 chip seal season starts tomorrow. They had 73 miles on the 2025 plan to be chip sealed this year. As you know, we also had submitted for a grant for durable pavement markings, which will be used in calendar year 26. So we've got some additional miles that we'd like to get done, I guess, in advance of putting durable markings on them. That way we don't end up chip sealing over our durable markings a couple years after we put them down.
Yeah.
So we're looking at an additional 20 miles. If we cannot capture all of that this year, some of that will have to roll into next season. So we're trying to pick the most needed miles out of those 93 or so that are slated for this year now.
Okay.
Got a couple more equipment quotes. I had mentioned this at the last meeting, but didn't have all the quotes yet. But we've got an underutilized dump truck that needs a new bed, and I had the mechanic reach out to a few folks to get quotes. So we received 2 quotes. The third vendor has not gotten back with us. It's been a couple weeks. So we can either review these 2 quotes, or we can try waiting on that third. I'm not sure how long we're required to await a response on something like this.
You sent it to 3 people, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, that's up to your discretion then as to how long you wish to wait.
That's kind of what I figured. So,
If it's a timely item, then I would say we should move on it. It's up to you.
okay. So the 2 quotes that we received are attached. And I apologize, Jeff, I just realized I didn't email you these. I didn't email you the agenda and the quotes that I brought along. But we have a quote from W.A. Jones, and we also have a quote from Kaleida, with Kaleida being the low bid. And these are basically for identical beds, or at least as close as they could quote. So it truly should be as close as we can get to an apples-to-apples comparison here. So,
Do they consider looking at a drop and hook so that turns that into like a Swiss Army knife versus just a dump truck?
so I talked to the mechanic about that. Unfortunately, the other person that was supposed to quote this, that was the person that we needed to talk to about that option. The first 2 quotes were not for that type of option, but we also had these quotes prior to you mentioning that. I did speak to the mechanic a little bit about that, and kind of his take on it was, okay, so we go the interchangeable route where we can have a dump bed, we can have a flat bed, and then possibly utilize like a roll-off dumpster option, which I think was talked about for the glass collection, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound familiar?
Could be.
Um,
Yes.
So the dumpster purchase with the glass collection, I don't know if that's for sure, and the mechanic's take was, we already have a couple flatbed trailers, so how much would we use a flatbed bed attachment for that type of a setup? He was kind of questioning how much we would actually utilize the interchangeability.
Okay. Just as long as it's considered.
Yep.
Some more options instead of having one truck with one use. It gave us more options, but I don't run the fleet, so I'm not going to dictate what it has to be. Just want it considered.
Okay. So I guess I would make a recommendation that we would accept the quote from Kaleida, if everybody's good with that.
I'm good with that. I'll make a motion to accept your recommendation from Kaleida.
I'll second that motion.
Jeff Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover?
Yes.
Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Next item to mention was just the equipment that's been kind of hanging out there for the last few months that we had obtained from the city of Fort Wayne, and we're looking at a possible agreement, and then through consensus with the department, it seemed like the equipment wasn't going to be something that we could really utilize that much. So we got back with the city of Fort Wayne, and we were able to return that equipment this morning. So that, everything to do with that should be completely taken care of now.
Okay. Good. Excellent.
Just last week, we kind of started noticing visibility concerns with the cornfields, with the rain and the heat that we've had. The corn's really shot up. So just wanted to make mention and kind of ask the farmers to take a look at their fields at the intersections. And, you know, if the corn needs trimmed for visibility and sight distance, we ask that you do that. If we keep receiving complaints about corn that's within our right-of-way, if it doesn't get trimmed, we're going to have to trim it.
Yep. Totally agree. Safety.
Then the final item that I've got for this evening, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before last, but we were having some issues with one of the exhaust fans in the garage bay, and I don't know if it's related to the exhaust fan or not, but we also had issues with the carbon monoxide and NO2 detectors. There were alarms going off one morning for the better part of the morning, and through the gals reached out to the manufacturer and reached out to Jackson, and I guess the gist of it is there's like 10 sensors, I believe, and apparently by the manufacturer's specs, they're supposed to be checked and recalibrated every 6 months. And if they're not, they can go defective and it voids the warranty. I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is the manufacturer has quoted like $10,000 to come out and replace these. And to my knowledge, there's still lingering items with the building that are not finished. I don't know, have we 100% accepted the building and all liability with it? Because in talking with Lindsay, it doesn't sound like we've ever received like a full-blown packet with all of the information, and it's my understanding that that stuff is kind of released over to the owner once everything's signed off. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, you purchase a vehicle and you get all the paperwork and warranty stuff that comes with it, and I feel like we don't have that. Nobody told us that, you know, these things have to be recalibrated every 6 months. The contractor's stance is that they were installed per manufacturer's recommendations, and the fact that we let it go out of warranty means that it's not their issue. But if nobody ever told us that they had to be recalibrated every 6 months and checked, how could we even know that that's like a routine maintenance item?
Exactly.
So I guess I don't know if any of you guys want to reach out to Jackson and try to figure out what a resolution might be here, but I mean.
Who was the sub in this?
Shamble, I believe.
Shambo was.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it from Shamball's standpoint too, that, they were hired to come out and install them. So they came, installed them and left, I'm sure.
Yeah, but on any handover, there's a packet of warranties, documentation, vendors, subcontractors, suppliers. So we need to see if Jackson handed over a complete set of drawings, warranties, manuals, all that. If that's the case, then it's on us. If it's not the case, then I don't mind sitting down with Jackson's and walking through that with them.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to Connor tomorrow.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got for this evening.
There are two rights-of-way associated with the engineer's report. One is for some property located on County Road 300 West, and the other is on County Road 200 South. I'd request the commissioners approve those two rights-of-way along with the application for the permit that's already been voted on and approved. Bless you.
I'll make that motion.
Motion.
I'll second that. I'll second the motion.
Jeff Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover?
Yes.
Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Hey Nate, before you leave, we had sent to Mike and Blake a proposal for the superintendent's position. I don't know if we want to bring that up tonight or if we want to bring that up next meeting.
So has everybody had a chance to review that?
The proposed contract,
Yes.
I did look at it. I have no issues with
Okay.
it.
I have no issues.
Okay, so I think the intent was to try to make a motion and pass that this evening to move forward with that.
Is that as an offer? Has the individual tentatively accepted the proposal?
Yes, tentatively.
Okay. So it seems to me that the motion would be to proceed with the job offer to that individual and have the commissioners sign it after signature by the job applicant.
Correct.
Totally agree. I'm on board with that. I'll support that, so.
So can I make that motion remotely?
Yep.
I'll second it.
Motion, we extend the offer as written, that you guys have reviewed, to the applicant. We're leaving his name out publicly so that he can give notice of his current position. I don't know if we can do that, Ted, you give me some direction on that, but we make the motion as presented to tender that offer.
Do you include a name?
We're tendering an offer, so I think you can withhold the name at this point, and then once we finally sign it at the next meeting, then we can identify who that is.
Because it could still be refused, so.
So I make that as a motion.
Or you can just wait until the next meeting after you've had the discussions with the individual to see if he's going to sign it.
Nate, don't we have the?
Yes, the discussions
Okay.
have taken place.
I have no other issue then.
Okay.
So, motion and second.
Who seconded?
Jeff?
You did?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Blake gave the second.
Yep.
Okay. Jeff Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover?
Yes.
Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Nate.
Bobby?
Hey, we didn't pour concrete today.
They did, they called. They'll be here tomorrow, supposedly, if we don't get weather.
Right.
Yeah, it's all kind of in that area right now. Okay. Well, I'm just here to see if the contract for the heating and cooling, updates for the courthouse is signed or not signed for the contract. So that's what I'm standing.
I had a conversation with Ted last week, and I have no issues with what we had proposed moving forward with. I'm willing, I don't know if it's a president-only signature or if it's all group of us.
It is.
President.
We motioned for that, I think, didn't we, last meeting?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we move forward and sign that agreement.
That's for the president to sign.
Correct.
Jeff Stringer?
Yes.
Michael Vanover? Blake Gerber?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
I don't have this update
I'll be
on
able to sign it Monday.
You'll be back Monday?
Yes.
So on the elevator, I called again for the fourth time in 2 weeks. And there is the part, they're still waiting on the part, but I asked them today if there was a way of getting ETA on that part, where it's at, and how much longer it would take to get here. So they're having a meeting in the morning, and hopefully by tomorrow afternoon I'll have some more answers. So
Okay.
that's where we're standing on that right now.
Very good.
Well,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your work on that quote also. Huntington Wells County Library update. Who's presenting that today?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Madam Clerk.
Sir?
I hope all these people behind me hear me talk about DeMarco Library, because it's going to be boring.
Good time to take a nap, right?
You have some really good employees. I'm more of a hands-on member, kind of board member. I make myself known to your employees there. And if they have any issues, you know. And was in the service, so I strongly believe in the chain of command, but sometimes your problem can be the chain of command. So you need to have somewhere to go to voice your concern, but there is no problems. The library is very clean. I take my youngest granddaughter, she's 6, and we go to story time on Monday, so I'm always out there every Monday to be seen. So I can tell you that the director of the library and the assistants are very good stewards of our tax dollars. You know, with all this property tax stuff going on, they started to tighten the belt, and things that they want to do are going to be put aside for things that need to be done.
Keep doing the good work.
Well, look, I'm retired now, so I got, I go for, because I do this because of my grandchildren,
Yep.
So.
Being involved, that's
They
the whole
enjoy it,
key.
so.
Yep.
You guys have any questions?
None.
I sure don't.
Well, that's it.
Pretty easy.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, that brings us to Citizens Against Drug Abuse. Hello.
Hello.
My name's Heather Baumgartner. I'm the new president for CADA this year. So I put some information there for you, and I will apologize. The letter that's on the top is not actually for you. It's for tomorrow. You guys really just need the spreadsheet that's at the back of the information. So we received grants. They were reviewed by a separate grant committee in relation to the 4 separate areas that we award money, which is education and prevention, treatment and intervention, judicial funds, and then other administrative funds. Each of the 4 categories has to get a minimum of 25%. On the spreadsheet, it shows the amount that was requested as well as the amount that we were able to award.
Excellent.
Jeff, I'm sorry, I didn't know you weren't going to be here. I would have made sure I had some stuff emailed to you. So,
That's fine, I'll review it when I get back.
okay.
You need a motion for this, correct? Or is just for information? Very good.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Heather.
Thank you very
You
much.
want me to leave you a copy for Jeff? So,
Please.
thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon, Councilman Harnish.
Commissioners,
Good evening.
thank you very much for having me. For the record, Brandon Harnish, Wells County Council, coming to you for the first item here to consider an ordinance. I have copies here. Do you happen to have copies?
They have copies.
They have copies, okay. Won't take long on this, just asking the commissioners to refer this model of, refer this document to the Area Plan Commission to begin drafting a revision to our ordinance as it concerns P1 overlay and solar. This model would restrict solar projects to private households and business development. There is an allowance for 50 acres of solar, provided that it would be within a city limit, for the intent of allowing a factory to power its own operations with 50 acres of solar, but that would have to be within in a city or a town, and that ground would have to be zoned industrial. Outside of that, sort of large-scale utility-style solar would not be permitted within Wells County. So that is all I had to say. I don't know if there's any formal motion needed to refer this to the Area Plan Commission or not. I leave that question to Ted. But that's the summary of this document.
Is there an audience there? I'm sure there's feedback on both sides that we should hear.
I don't know that the commissioners, the way it's been presented, can take any action without a referral, without having the Area Plan Commission review this. And it's not a public hearing, so we wouldn't need to interrupt the meeting, and we could have public comment on it at the time for public comment. And as I understand the request, it's to have the commissioners recognize the authority of the Area Plan Commission and ask them to review the ordinance.
Yeah, I have no problem with Area Plan taking a look at this.
Yeah. That, I think that's following the proper protocol, would be to just ask Area Plan, through the commissioners, to ask Area Plan to take a look at it. Then I believe Area Plan would have to draft it, accept it, vote on it, and then it would get kicked back to the commissioners for final approval. Is that?
That's my
That's the
understanding.
idea, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that's out in the community now that we need to, at some point, we need to make a decision one way or another. We continue to have APC meetings, and I think it'll be the fourth or fifth time it's been presented. Let's take a stance one way or the other. Either we're for it or we're against it, and let's figure it out, put it in our ordinances, and move on. We've got other things going on.
Sounds fair to me. I don't think we need any formal action with that, do we?
Just review it and
I imagine
bring it up at a future date.
As long as
Lotzenheiser has a copy of this.
Mike here?
Say he's nodding, yes, so I guess we're
Okay,
good.
he's got a copy.
Alrighty. Well, I'm okay to move on then, and I think you're next with the next subject anyway, and the prosecutor would like to join you.
Afternoon, everyone. Evening.
Hello.
I gave them all. I'll wait till. Okay. I have a pretty limited purpose here. I'm a member of the Judicial Reinvestment Advisory Council. That's a statutorily created council that sort of run by the state. There's a state organ that funnels down into the local counties, concerned primarily with the intersection of the judicial system, the criminal justice system, and service providers that are out there, things like community corrections or some mental health providers, addiction counseling, that sort of thing. And it was created in 2018 by Governor Holcomb to kind of explore how do we connect those services to those needs to the criminal justice system a little bit better. And so many people are a part of it. There's some statutory members and appointees, that sort of thing. So JRAC meets quarterly at minimum and goes through some needs in the community. There's some reporting requirements that are given to us by the state. Work with the Indiana DOC, some other groups to make sure that the information is flowing well. And the idea overall is to reduce recidivism. That's the big issue that the state is trying to tackle. Indiana runs at about 35 to 40% recidivism rate. Wells County's kind of in the middle of that, historically speaking. And so that's why we do what we do. And so at our June 30th meeting, we had a special meeting, I should say. Mr. Harnish, along with Trent Reikley, who's in the back there, gave a presentation on something that the Wells County Foundation is doing, which is an urban revitalization project. It's called Bluffton Vitalism. I say I have a limited purpose here. I'm just a member of JRAC. I'm just here to kind of explain what happened, and there's other people who could better explain that project. But all in all, the project would look at some distressed properties, some urban blight that we might have to deal with. And JRAC sort of considered how does urban decay affect criminal justice and recidivism specifically. And the statistics are pretty clear that if a town remains beautiful, if it remains a place where people want to go and shop, there's a lot of activity, there's good things that you want to take your kids to, crime tends to decrease in those areas. And when you let buildings rot and you have flop houses or whatever, crime goes up. So that presentation was made to JRAC, and JRAC's mission, again, is the intersection of addiction, mental health, treatment, that sort of thing in the criminal justice system. And as you all are well aware, back in, I believe it was 2021 or 22, the county opted into the opiate settlement through the state. The county has received some funds. I know that we are set to receive funds through 2035, is that right? Yeah, so there will be more funds that will come in. And the presentation was made, and there was an ask made essentially of JRAC. Does JRAC see that some of those opioid settlement funds would be useful in assisting the Wells County Foundation with this project? Now, there has been no formal vote on this project. I know the Wells County Foundation has created the land trust, but council hasn't voted on anything. Your body hasn't voted on anything. The city has not voted on anything yet. But there is a lot of support amongst stakeholders in the community for this, both in public and private individuals that have expressed a lot of interest in it. So JRAC is merely at that meeting, June 30th, merely is saying that these funds are out there. JRAC finds them to be, those are funds that would be sensible expenditures if the commissioners saw it fit to utilize those funds for that. There was no specific vote on the amount of money. It's not our money, it's the county's money. It's not JRAC's money for sure. But JRAC, by a majority vote, did recommend that the commissioners consider use of those funds in this project. Now, I talked to Mr. Storer a little bit earlier. Some of those funds are unrestricted, some are restricted. In the presentation, some of the project that Mr. Harnish had spoken about, and I'll let him talk more about it, are specifically engaged in treatment and prevention. There was a specific ask for, hey, we have, there's $300 and something thousand out there. We could utilize this for certain specific measures that would relate to opiate addiction, treatment, recovery, that sort of thing. So specifically within that group, there was support from Judge Kirchhoff, who was in the room, the Chief of Police in Bluffton, the Sheriff, the Acting Director of Community Corrections, and myself. So you had the law enforcement individuals that were there saw this as a fitting way to use these funds, if you all agree with that. So I'm just here to explain what happened, and there's a letter there from Greg Werrick, who is the president of JRAC currently, that maybe lays it out a little bit more. I'll leave it to Mr. Harnish and other individuals to explain that project a little bit better. I just wanted to come here and explain where we were at, and maybe a little bit more about what happened at that meeting. I can answer any questions you have, but that's pretty much why I'm here.
Okay, so to add a little clarity, right now, we have some derelict buildings or structures here in the county that are kind of known sites where drugs are being used or sold and have become a nuisance to law enforcement or the justice system as a whole. Is that correct? So you've identified some of those sites here in town?
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
And so you've already, I mean, the folks that met there already kind of put together a plan and said, this is going to definitely, I guess, strike a blow against people being able to go to those isolated places and use and/or OD in some cases. By eliminating that is, of course, the reduction then in the problems that we've located and/or identified in this county.
Yeah, I would say so.
Narcotics.
I agree, and the project's bigger than just a law enforcement end. It's economic. It's about a quality of life that every citizen of Wells County would want to have, and Bluffton really is the heartbeat of the county. Specifically, as prosecutor, speaking with the chief of police and the sheriff, there are areas out there where we have, like you said, derelict buildings, maybe owners who aren't cooperative with law enforcement. They don't want the police called. That can happen. They don't want to be on the radar. We have owners of buildings that are from out of state. They don't really care. They just want to be left alone. And so anything that can raise the standard of living within the city is going to have a beneficial effect on the criminal justice system. It's going to make it healthier and happier, a better place, a place where people can be proud of, but also a place where you would maybe be ashamed to go in and start using or dealing drugs, where people have eyes on you, where there's a lot of activity, but it's healthy and positive.
The language I used at the presentation before JRAC, this is just a summary of the big idea. It's addressing social determinants of drug abuse. So investments in economic or environmental improvements that reduce risk factors for opioid misuse, such as poverty, isolation, and neglected environments. So under that broad sort of umbrella, we believe that this project really does have there's a law enforcement sort of element to this project and a drug abuse element to this project that we believe the $300,000 that we requested in restricted and unrestricted funds would qualify sort of under that rubric that's laid out in the opioid settlement agreement. We do make a distinction between long-term and short-term methods of dealing with drug abuse and opioid abuse. Obviously, there are treatment centers that would be more short-term for people who are addicted now. But then there's a sort of broader, more economic development approach, which we would consider long-term, bringing in more economic opportunity, having more community spaces that would just sort of elevate the community in a way that would address drug abuse in the long term. So those are the distinctions we made at the JRAC meeting, and again, the big idea, addressing those social determinants. So you hit the nail on the head, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you for that.
Are all or only the buildings in Bluffton? Are there other blighted buildings outside of the city limits that are also considered, or are all these just Bluffton?
So let me, Ossian, part of Marco, whatever.
I'll answer that question. I'd like to give some folders out here real quick though, Jeff, and then I'll address that question.
Please.
So these folders are going to give you a little bit of information on the project, and it does contain some documents that I gave to JRAC. And just so you have it in writing, so that you have an opportunity to really dig through the project, most of the questions that you might have are going to be answered in here. Not all, but most. And it really tries to give you a bird's eye view of what we're talking about, and then it does get into detail. So, Jeff, as far as your question goes, this is a project that really the Wells Community Foundation or the Wells County Foundation is the engine, the real driver of this project. So without the Community Foundation, this project cannot happen. And the Wells County Foundation is called the Wells County Foundation for a reason. It addresses issues, it is concerned for the whole of the county as a body, not just the city of Bluffton. So there's no reason why, in terms of the scope of the project, and perhaps a more long-term project, that other communities outside of the city limits of Bluffton could not go to the foundation and seek to arrange a similar model. But as it concerns this specific project today, the buildings that are on the list are only within the city limits of Bluffton.
And let me interrupt you just for 1 second, Brandon. So JRAC, let's separate them for a minute. The JRAC funds, my question is, when you look at JRAC funds and what Colin, Mr. Andrews had said, that we want to use those funds for blighted buildings. I'm not asking, I realize some of these go to the downtown project, but is there a comprehensive list of blighted buildings within the county, whether they fall within the city or within other communities or within the county, that would be on that list? Not saying that they are the ones that we take or the ones we don't take, but is there a comprehensive list of blighted buildings that have drug use or distribution of drugs related to those sites?
There is not a list specifically built around drug use, but there is a list that involves blight or underutilization. And that list, all of the properties on that list would fall within the city limits of Bluffton.
I would just request, before we make a judgment on the JRAC funds, which I agree, I don't have a problem with the use, I would just like to see a comprehensive list of all the buildings, all the activity, and make that judgment based off which ones are our biggest cause. Where do we see the most calls for law enforcement related to buildings, and put them in priority of which ones we should put those funds to have the biggest effect, right? If there's a barn in Southern Wells that we got called to once, that probably won't be the top of my list compared to the old Bluffton Hospital. That's probably one of our main issues.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them ranked if we could.
So I think in order to comply with the rules surrounding the restricted funds, now the unrestricted funds, there are no restrictions, but in order to comply with the rules on the restricted funds, it would be advisable to do exactly what you're suggesting, if we're going to use those restricted funds for the acquisition of a particular blighted property, we need to tie a history of drug abuse on that property to the use of those funds. I agree with that.
Thank you.
How long would it take to throw something together like that? That would give us a better idea of where we're going to apply these funds.
To sort of sequence that out, and I'm trying to think on the fly here, give you an answer. It would probably be advisable if we had access to the funds, then to justify the use of those funds, engage in the research. I mean, I suppose we could put together a preliminary list of just possible structures.
I think that's what he's asking.
Okay, yeah. Maybe just put together a preliminary list. I can talk to the police chief here in Bluffton.
Because they know where their new.
Just say, hey, where are your drug sites? He'll tell me, and then I can give you a list. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be
Pretty simple.
And I want to be, Brandon said he used that term. I'm just here on behalf of JRAC. That money wouldn't go through JRAC. This is just a recommendation of
Right.
JRAC that, hey, this money may be useful towards a project that looks like it could really benefit everybody.
And it probably is worth mentioning that this, again, is opioid settlement money. It's not property tax money. It's not income tax money here locally. Definitely trying to be judicious about the kinds of funds that are expended on this project. Now, if I may, are there any more questions on the JRAC element of this?
Yeah, I think
I'd be happy to take them now.
Barclay may have had something there. I wanted to give you a chance. If you're representing Ossian,
Well, no, I'm actually just citizen and question of, I know it was mentioned, it sounds like for Spillman, the county, everybody's invested in Spillman big time. We should be able to tell within pretty quick on if a call to, and I know one of the projects that they're talking about is the Lowe's Community Hospital, there's been many calls there that unfortunately, locally, I think probably the city of Bluffton's had to spend money to secure that building more than anything, but that was the questions that I would have. That particular building is owned by someone from out of state, but this project, I know has been talked about many times that there's drug elements here, and I'm glad you guys are actually asking that question, because I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, I believe there's only one non-local owner, which obviously is the big eyesore that we see every day.
Right.
So, and I know that was one project that was talked about, but you earlier talked about the CADA funds. What, and I'm just asking as, because I truly don't know, what funds CADA? Is that, are there public funds spent for that? And again, not trying to pick on
No,
the spot,
that's
but I
okay.
think-
Because right here on this,
And I know, I'm.
No, that's fine.
To answer the whole, I just was asking of if there are public funds or the opioid funds, things that we can fund, things like CADA or the group that's,
yeah, the answer is yes, because they accept those grants or any kind of money. I could write them a check, whoever. So it is a mix.
okay. But obviously, I mean, if they don't come for the funds, no different than the groups that land trust.
Right, we could take those opioid funds and apply them to wherever, we feel fit, as long as it fits that definition of combating opioid abuse or addiction or the mental health awareness, on and on and on.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, as a part of the capital stack of this project, what I had said to JRAC and the understanding is that the restricted funds will be tied directly to opioid drug abuse prevention. And so that remains a commitment that I made to JRAC. That's a commitment that Commissioner Stringer is asking me about here tonight, and I'll say it again, we're going to tie that money directly to a project that is blighted, vacant, and has a history of drug abuse, so that when we spend that money, we can be confident that that money will be going to alleviate those issues. It is
Yeah,
restricted funding.
I can say what I've seen and heard already up to this point. I don't have any opposition, but I, just speaking for myself, would like a couple weeks to digest it and maybe get together some more information that Commissioner Stringer has asked for, and then, make a decision, either yes or no, by next meeting. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
so-
think that's too fast at all.
No, I don't think so either, and there's no pressure here to make a decision tonight.
Sure.
Really, Colin came up with me to present the question of the opioid settlement funds. I didn't come up here with an expectation that anybody would make a decision tonight. I do have I would like to speak to you briefly about the Fuller revitalization project. This is not, this project does not live or die based on the use of these opioid funds. It's an additional contribution to the capital stack.
Okay.
But the broader project,
Are you done?
I'm all done with
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yeah, you can go.
All right. It's uncomfortable.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
The broader project here is a community-minded operation that, like I mentioned before, it really all runs through the Wells County Foundation. This can't happen without their partnership and without their leadership. The full project, if you look at the bubble map that I've provided you, involves a variety of partners, all revolving around a central idea, which is how do we make Bluffton a vital place to live. Bluffton vitality, or Bluffton vitalism. We want to address blight and vacancy. We want to eliminate unsafe environments, reduce social and physical access to drugs. We want to restore historic buildings, We want to see the River Greenway expanded. We'd like to see riverfront development. And we want to lean in to the creation of more common spaces and the investment in quality of life projects for the people who live here now. I've talked often with our City Council President, Scott Menser, about this question: how do you build a great city? And that really is the key question here that I ask myself, and perhaps more broadly, how do you build a great county? And you can chase subdivisions, you can chase smokestacks, you can chase GDP, but I think ultimately we owe a great county and a great city to the people who live here now. They're the ones who vote for us, and they're the ones that we serve. And that means quality of life. And I believe that's a position that slowly I've grown to believe in and accept in my time in office. I think Scott Menser feels the same way. We see eye to eye on that matter. And the city and the county, to cooperate on a project like this, it gives us a leg up on our competitors in other counties. I believe that Jeff Stringer, you asked the question, does this project pertain only to Bluffton? And this specific project does. The broader project would not have to. That would be a matter of other towns and cities going to the Community Foundation and offering an idea. But as far as this project is concerned, the question is, what is the county's role in making Bluffton a great city? I don't believe that Wells County can be great unless the city of Bluffton is great. The city of Bluffton is the heart of our county. We've made major investments in the library. We have a beautiful courthouse we've made investments into. And we also have the building we're in now. We're all gathered here in downtown Bluffton. And Wells County has an interest in making sure that its county seat and its heart are strong. And that's the overall approach here that we're trying to take. This is not to the detriment of any other town or city in the county. Wells County is only as strong as its cities and towns. It's the nature of a county. We are our cities and towns. And of course, our rural residents as well, who come to the cities and towns to do their shopping and for social gatherings. Right now, we're looking at, and Colin had mentioned, no formal decisions have been made. This is a process, but we have to start it somewhere, and that's what I'm trying to do tonight. So right now, we'd be looking at what we're requesting of the commissioners, and tomorrow I'll ask the council to consider it as well, would be that the Wells County government extend a $1 million line of credit at 5% interest to the Wells Community Foundation for the purpose of capitalizing the land trust, which would go about acquiring Bluffton assets, Bluffton real estate assets, for the purpose of revitalization and addressing underutilization, blight, and just general disrepair. And that really is the sort of the bird's eye view of this project. You can't fix what you don't own. And we have blighted assets in our community. We have a lot of great assets in our community as well. I don't want to discount the great private efforts that have been made over the last 10, 15 years in downtown Bluffton and broader. You can see them when you drive through downtown Bluffton. I won't go through the trouble of naming names, but you can drive through and take a look at historic buildings that have been restored to their the past glory, and you can see the buildings that have not, and you can see the buildings that are empty, and that's what we're trying to address. A rising tide lifts all ships. Everybody's heard that phrase, and that's particularly true in a community where all of our property, where all of our assets are so closely tied together. I got into politics, and very quickly it became apparent to me that in order to attract private capital investment, governments have to invest in themselves. We as a people, if we want others to invest in us, we have to invest in ourselves. Why should we expect anyone, especially in an age where you can just get on your phone, go to Robinhood, and dump however much money you want into that app? It takes a real love for a community to decide to invest your money into a physical space, into downtown Bluffton. And the people who do that, we need to protect their investments from blight, from lawlessness, from vagrancy, and that's a part of the spirit of this project. So I've spoken broadly. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I've spoken broadly about this project. I wanted to get it on your radar. I wanted to formally present it to this body. I'll do the same tomorrow in front of council, and ask you to consider the request. So again, a $1 million line of credit at 5% interest. The details, I believe Lisa has given the promissory note and the loan document, which Ted prepared recently. And the additional appropriation here would be for $90,000 of tribal assistance fund money. This was money that was given to the county in COVID, I believe. It was during COVID. This is not local property tax or income tax money. That $90,000 would be the county's contribution to pay the manager, negotiator, and advisor of the project, which is Pago USA. They would be working and directly contracted with the Wells Community Foundation. When it comes to the matter of spending, I do want to emphasize that this is not government spending as it concerns the line of credit. This is an investment in ourselves. When Wells County government taxes citizens, that money goes into the treasurer's hands, and then she deposits that money into local banks. And those local banks invest that money in the form of primarily home loans and business loans. And we'll be doing the same, essentially, in the form of a line of credit. It's an investment in our own people and in our own county seat. And I provided a number of other documents that I won't go through with you tonight. I think that more or less summarizes sort of my part of this. I just wanted to give you that information here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, you have my phone number. We can continue to talk, and I can go take my seat.
We'll take that under advisement unless we have some other questions.
Hey, Brandon, I just want to clarify my question about the buildings throughout the county is more around the JRAC. The JRAC money is county money, so I want to make sure it's distributed to the right ones. I'd like the downtown project. The thing that the reservations I have is I want to make sure that as a government entity, we're not competing with people that want to invest downtown, to where if you get a private investor that wants to build that same or buy that same building, that we're not artificially creating a competition between taxpayers and private entities for those same facilities.
So,
that's my only,
yeah, so let's...
and I want to make sure that it's apples to apples with, we talk about Pago USA. Are there other people out there like Pago? So it's a level playing field. When we go out for bids for anything else related to the government, there's at least 3 bids. Right now we're talking about one entity. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I just want to make sure the transparency is we're not singling out one entity to help them promote buying facilities or buying assets within the city that could be bought by private entities and do the same thing. So does that make sense?
Yes, let me answer both of those questions. So the first question involved the government being a competitor in the market. So Wells County government would not own anything at all. What we're talking about here is an investment into our community foundation. Wells County government would not buy, own, or negotiate for these assets. That function is performed by the Land Trust, which is a subsidiary of the Wells Community Foundation. It's really its child. And when Wells Community's line of credit, when Wells County government's line of credit expires at the end of 5 years, Wells County government would no longer be involved in the project whatsoever. We are involved insofar as we're protecting our line of credit, but we do not own, we do not buy, and Wells County government as an entity does not engage in any of that. So it would not be a competitor in the market for the acquisition of property. Your second question, if you could perhaps refresh my memory.
Yeah, just, again, want to make sure that we're not competing for that same property. I think the logical question is if Fred, the investor, showed up and wanted to buy a building that would compete with the trust, are we willing to give them $1 million loan on the same property that we would the trust? So I just want to make sure that we're not creating a competitive advantage for one entity, unless there's a clear advantage for the community. So I'm just thinking out loud to you right now about what needs to go through my mind or needs to be resolved. I love the idea of the project. I love the idea we're investing in downtown, but we've got several downtowns, and how does that work out?
So I think, I'm sorry, Jeff, your volume's a little low. I apologize if I interrupted. I think a major motivator of this project is acquiring assets that private capital either has not or could not justify. So when we look at certain downtown assets, the expense needed to acquire the asset and then refurbish the asset and then turn that asset into a revenue source, it can be prohibitive. The benefit of the Land Trust and Foundation is, in what PAYGO excels at, is acquiring both tax credits and grants. So those fees for PAYGO would be for that purpose. That makes this, it makes this possible to attack blight. I mean, at some point you do have to ask, how long do we have to drive by that old hospital? I mean, until just the so-called free market comes in and saves it. I mean, it's not going to happen. We live in a rigged market that pulls money to Wall Street. That's why I said earlier, it's so easy to just dump your money into Wall Street on an app on your phone. How are we supposed to compete with that? That's not the free market. That's a rigged market that benefits Wall Street at the expense of Main Street. So what Main Street's doing here is we're fighting back. Otherwise, we just continue to watch that building rot. And I'm not in the business of suiciding my own community for the benefit of an ideology. That's not going to happen. And as far as the matter of PAYGO goes, the question in terms of competitive bidding. So to sequence this out, PAYGO is the consultant here, but as it concerns the actual development of property, PAYGO's not locked in. We can open that process up to bidding, whether it's construction, demolition, refurbishment, whatever it is. That's all open bid. At this point, we're just talking about we're talking about reimbursing the community foundation for a contract that they would have with this organization, with PAYGO, to aid in advising the foundation to get those grants, to get those tax credits that will ultimately help capitalize this project and, frankly, just save our downtown and save our old city. That's the idea.
Great point. Great point.
It's my understanding, and I think you guys have been given the PAYGO presentation, that it does say in there that they'll be hiring a model group. So I would just like to request, and I think that this project would probably be good to, it obviously today is being put in the public eye, but to maybe would have been better to talk to local people. And yes, there was this initial group of 4 or 5, but initially talk to people that are investing and have been investing in the town. I talked to one person who's invested in Bluffton and Walls County for over 50 years, and he now knows about the project, but he wasn't asked. So things like that maybe that would be a better way to go about a project. But somebody in that presentation talking about the model group from Cincinnati, we have a general contractor right in Bluffton, Jackson Company, that does a lot of work in our community. Grinders is another one. That I guess that's when there's paperwork out there that, quite frankly, if public funds are starting to get involved in it, whether it's a line of credit, whatever it is, it should be out in the paper. You know, that your presentation you've given, you know, that, I would assume the banner's gonna be putting that out there, but I guess, you know, it's an idea, and it's an idea that the foundation, I mean, you being the representative of the foundation, have asked, hey, let's ask for $1 million line of credit, but we also have, you know, a project that's coming through the pipeline of the Gorman Company that's looking to help. That's another part of our community of need of more workforce housing, more low-income housing. You know, is that going to be afforded by the government in the future to them? You know, I guess my question is just what would that $1 million be? You know, where would that come from? And then ultimately, you know, is that going to be used, something that we're going to set as a standard for investment in Wells County? I mean, there's people investing in Wells County every day.
Yeah.
And we've all been in this game long enough of politics and as elected officials, that's what brings investment in our community. We have to, as in government, work with people coming in, whether it's our local community, which thankfully with the foundation, lots of people in this room have invested in foundation because they believe in the, you know, when I say investment, they've donated money to the foundation over the years. So I guess that's just my question. I mean, I'm all for, you know, there are lots of people, Bluffton now, different organizations, private industry has invested in Bluffton. They're continuing. I mean, there's lots of buildings downtown that person's XYZ person will sell to you, but he's going to sell at maybe 2 or 3 times what that building's worth. So it's trying to understand how that's going to happen, and I guess maybe through your capital stack that this project probably doesn't make sense without the tax credits. I mean, is that a true statement?
I think that's a true statement, yeah. And to maybe answer a couple of items directly, so I do want to be clear, I have not been tasked as a representative of the foundation. I'm not on the foundation board. I'm coming here as a person who believes in this project and a member of county council. So I just want to be clear, I'm not speaking on behalf of the foundation. They intend to be, my understanding, they've started the trust, and I expect them to be a partner in this project, but they have yet to settle on a solid number. I think they will do that later this month. And then as it concerns sort of community feedback and input, a project like this has undergone probably half a dozen revisions over the course of the last 12 months. And I've said this to others, it can be difficult to know when to bring a project to the public eye when it's not complete, or at least some iteration of it's not. Otherwise, you bring it to the front, you bring it to the public eye, and then it changes, and then it changes again, and it changes again, and some of these things take a little while to cook. And so I felt like now it is starting to look like a finished product. I felt like now is the right time to bring that out there. And so as far as that's concerned, I would invite any downtown owner or stakeholder to give me a call, send me an email, give me a text message, ask me questions, talk to me about it. I've tried to make myself as available as possible, especially when people voice concerns or they say, I don't fully understand this, let's get a cup of coffee, let's talk about it. And then and as it concerns the matter of the $1 million line of credit and to whom this would all be extended, that's just a matter, in my estimation, that's a matter of investors and people who want to better this community coming to this body and the county council and asking. The city of Bluffton earlier this year decided they needed county assistance to build a new pool. And Scott Menser took it upon himself to put together a presentation, came before the commissioners, came before council, and he was awarded $800,000, not as an investment per se to be paid back, but just as a lump sum. And credit to him for that. Then as it concerns, again, that $1 million line of credit, I think that's I think that's my attitude on it. This isn't to the exclusion of any other project or any other town or city. Like I said, Wells County is a political body, and Bluffton is the heart of that body. And we are only as strong as our cities and towns. I mentioned that before, and I believe that sincerely. You cannot have a strong Wells County with a Bluffton that is that contains blight and vacancy in the way that certain properties do now. Does that answer sort of your questions?
I think it
Okay.
does. I just think it's a general question for the taxpayer and all elected officials. A lot of times it's a philosophy of how involved should government be, in our everyday lives. I mean, I think that you and I ideologically on that see a lot eye to eye, but I think that, nobody's asked ultimately because probably a lot of people maybe don't believe in that as a fundamental thing. But again, we're a different Wells County than we were since COVID. I mean, COVID's changed a lot. So things, and again, investing in our community through good investments like the pool,
Yeah,
that,
right.
and all those different items, I think are definitely, so it's a good point, but those are just questions I asked that, there's other, I'm sure, all kinds of projects north of town that are being looked at and different things that, is that the new norm that we're gonna have in our county? So
Is it the new norm that Wells County government will extend lines of credit?
I'm going to jump in here, guys. I like the discussion, but we got to move on. You've given us a lot here to absorb. We're going to go over it. We are going to discuss it. I have a lot of research to do on this. I'd like to understand PAYGO a little better and also see if maybe there are other places where this has been modeled. I think Van Wert, Ohio is a good example. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one.
That's one, okay. But I'd like to see if there's some other models like this out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see who else was involved in that. So I think for now, unless there's an objection to it, I'd like to just put it to the side and look at it again in a couple weeks.
Totally agree.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it. Mr. Latzenizer.
So for the first item to discuss in regards to the rezoning request for David and Shonda Runkle, it was continued to this meeting. So we'd ask if there's any questions for the Plan Commission at this time. Otherwise, I would allow Mr. Runkle to come up and talk to you in regards to some of the things that he has shared.
Mr. Stringer, any further questions for this before we get started on that?
No,
Mr. Gerber?
I think I've got all mine answered.
Okay. Mr. Runkle would like to come forward, then we'd like to hear about it.
Brian's not going to be with us tonight.
Okay.
But you guys have the blueprints and stuff on what we were wanting to do. And I know you guys haven't voted on nothing, but at 3-acre lots, it's going to be very hard to make any money on the money I got to put into it. So, I mean, it'll be close. And if you guys aren't happy with the 3-acre lots, could I just get one more to where I could sell 6 acres? All one lump sum. Basically about it.
Do we have an updated one here? Is this all we've got right now?
These are the two that were proposed back to us from the original one from last meeting that had 8 or 10 lots on it.
Okay. So 3 lots, here, 4 lots, where he's asking that now, not this, but 1 lot left over with, you said 6 acres?
Yeah, would you mind, I might need a little
Where
guidance on
where
that
would the 6
be.
acres
Yeah, I'd like to
actually
understand that.
be? Where's the dividing line?
I got it. A bunch of papers.
The total is the 11 point,
Yeah.
11.6.
And I know you guys have shown that, but
Yeah, I've seen it. Thank you.
it'd be split right beside my property. It'd still leave me 6 acres, and then somebody could build back there.
Okay, I'm sorry, where's the division?
Right
This-
here,
this
that line.
Oh, okay, this one here, this line, I got you, okay.
Right. Or if the person wanted more, it wouldn't matter, they could buy more off of me.
Send Jeff.
Did you see the new map, Jeff?
No.
I'm gonna send it to you.
I was gonna say, I'll snap a picture and text it to him.
I got it. You should have it.
I'm sorry about throwing that on you. but I just know if we go under the 7, it's not gonna be profitable.
Did that come through on your end?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
So basically, you're wanting to have 1 lot, and then it would be whoever you would sell it to would put their own driveway in.
They're responsible for everything then, if they wanna do that.
So is it currently being farmed right now?
Yeah. Has beans in it.
This is, well, we received it in the mail. Not even seen this until tonight, so.
Because just put the driveway and stuff in, you're, on the 3-acre lots, you're looking at close to a couple $100,000 with the retention pond and stuff. And I don't think nobody's out there would pay $150,000 to $200,000 for 3 acres.
Yeah, I've developed a subdivision. I know it's not cheap.
Right.
I think the question for me is that whether it's 1 lot split or 12 lot split, are we ready to get rid of that ordinance? Right, this property, why I think we need more properties for housing. This property is split with the sewer there a long time ago. Mr. Uncle knew that the splits were diminishing as he went through, and he sold them all off. Now he's asking for an exception to the rule, so he can now use that line that's been existing in front of his home for, I don't know, decades. So I think the problem I see is that if this was the case, it should have been completed before the last split was sold off. There's no more available splits. Now we want the exception to do it, so I struggle with that. And I have property the same way, but I have 6 splits left on my property, and I'm trying to calculate what's the best way to use those splits, because they're gone when they're gone.
Yeah. I'll make my comment again. Back in the day when we started splits and sell-offs and things like that, we ran into issues, especially the one that comes to my mind is the Felgerhart property, which used to be RCM Automotive. With that being said, the Runkles came to us early on and proposed, I think, 10 or 11 lots, and then it came down to 3, and then came, or 4, then it was 3, and that was brought to us after our meeting last time around, and now that was our presentation, and now we're being offered a single lot. I think I can't support an exemption, knowing up front that we had an exemption when he purchased the parcels originally, that it was not allowed, and now you're asking for an exception. As much as it makes sense.
I have another way to make money on my property, so
Yeah, so
I can go that route.
I would be a no, and I would make it in the form of a motion, but, it's totally up to you, gentlemen. If you support it, don't support it, want to make a different motion.
Please recall that this has been presented to the Board of Commissioners upon a no recommendation from the Area Plan Commission. The commissioners can take no action. The commissioners can overturn the no recommendation and vote in favor of an exemption, or you can accept or not approve an exemption for this additional split.
There's a time limit, right? 90-day time limit from the APC meeting?
If no action is taken within 90 days of May 1st, 2025, which is when the no recommendation was voted on, then it automatically becomes a no recommendation, or essentially a no pass.
I don't have a problem with him moving the 6 acres, but I know that, Commissioner Gerber and Commissioner Stringer bring up a strong point that you knew those exemptions were used up, and those splits were used up when you bought it. I don't know that I'm going to overcome that with any argument I may pose right now, especially the no recommendation coming from Area Plan. I actually learned something new there, that no action is actually an action that can be brought to us, so.
Right.
It is what it is. Where do you sit on this, Stringer, if you had to make a decision on it right now?
Yeah, again, I don't want to tell anybody what they can and can't do, but there's ordinances on every piece of property in the United States, and the ordinances in Wells County that once you're done with your divisions, you're done with your divisions. So I would back Mr. Gerber's recommendation that it's no pass.
So is that a motion to no pass, which has been seconded by Mr. Stringer?
I think Commissioner Gerber intimated that motion of no pass was what he was putting out there. So if there's a second from Commissioner Stringer.
Yeah, mine's a second.
Jeff Stringer,
Yes.
Michael Vanover,
No.
Blake Gerber.
Yes.
Motion passes 2-1.
And that's for a no pass.
For no
On the
pass.
exemption.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Runkle.
Absolutely. Michael?
I just gave you the letter. I didn't copy this whole thing for you guys.
Yeah, so in regards to the rezoning request, there's the ordinance, we'll just need to have signed following with the two major single ones.
Yep, thanks.
You have a copy of it?
We can do it at the end.
Yeah, I think doing that's fine.
Okay, just want to make sure we don't miss that. Okay, so we're in front of you today with a unanimous do-pass recommendation for ordinance amendments to the Wells County zoning ordinance and the Wells County subdivision control ordinance. The Wells County Plan Commission, over the last several months, has been working through amendments focused primarily on our permitted use table and our ordinance definitions. This started about a half a year ago when we went through some training where we were told that having concise information in regards to the ordinance definitions, making sure that it's defensible and that we have the definitions needed to make sure that the ordinance works and is clearly understandable by the general public is very important. So what we did is we went through, we verified that everything in the permitted use table matched a ordinance definition. Then we went through and took a review of things that needed to be added to the permitted use table so that it would match the desires of Wells County based on the comprehensive plan. In that process, we also then went through the definition section and went through and added any definitions that needed to be added. There was some amendments and changes that we worked with the Plan Commission Board on, and we also removed some ordinance definitions that were no longer used in the text of the document itself. So that was the primary part. The other big part really is an ordinance amendment. It is just a formatting of the document for which all defined words in the ordinance are now bold and underlined in the text. So when you see a bold underlined word, that means that there is a definition for that word in the definition section of the ordinance. We also worked through a item that the City of Bluffton directed us to take a look at, which was in regards to noise issues caused by manufacturing facilities. So in that case, we came up with a definition that we felt was defensible, discussing about how loud a manufacturing facility had to be at the property line before it would be considered heavy industrial or heavy manufacturing versus light manufacturing. Beyond that, there were some other technical corrections. We did go through and change out and made, instead of using streets and different terminologies for roadways, we use public way for everything now. We also introduced all the definitions from the Federal Highway through help with the Northeast Regional Coordinating Council with NERC, working with a complete list so the ordinance would have all the information to match that when we're looking at setbacks and different things that go along with that. So with this, I'd ask if you have any questions for me in regards to the ordinance amendment. Otherwise, I would ask for your support and an approval of the amendments to both the Wells County zoning ordinance and the Wells County subdivision control ordinance as presented.
I don't have any questions. Most of the subdivision stuff will be down for the cities, but unless it splits out in the county, so.
No, there's no, there was no changes to either one of those.
I'd make a recommendation and a motion to support the changes that Mike's described.
And this doesn't do anything for noise ordinance in the county or anything else. This only has to do with industrial.
This is, specifically the difference between light and heavy manufacturing.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not an issue of somebody driving around or having a loud.
That's what I understood.
Brought on by the ARMCO.
Yes, yeah. So in the specifics of, in the original rezoning petition for Omco Steel, the discussion, initially, if you had a punch press in your building, you were considered heavy manufacturing. This ordinance allows a building to comply no matter what is inside of it, as long as it can hold a certain quality of sound outside.
Just so many decibels at that
Yes.
line?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
We have a means of measuring all that?
Yes, yep,
Buffers and
we
everything
do.
else.
Perfect. We have a second then?
I'll second Blake's motion.
Jeff Stringer,
Yes.
Michael Vanover,
Yes.
Blake Gerber.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0. Do these, I have 2 signature pages, do they each get a different ordinance number?
I think we handle them as one ordinance number. The city of Bluffton did when they adopted it, so
Okay.
we can follow that.
Ordinance number 2025-05.
2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. All other business.
You have in your packet the statement of salaries and wages for 2026.
Yes.
Each office submitted these to you. Statutorily, these are to be presented to the commissioners at your July meeting for review and recommendations, and then before August 20th, if you would like to make any recommendations to county council, you may do that. I did write on each one, because last year you wanted to know what increases were made, so I did note on each one what the percentage of increase was.
And we suggested a 3% last time. Is that correct, or was it 5?
Some are 3s, some are 5s,
Okay.
some are more
Okay.
than that. It just depends.
No, we had a discussion about it last meeting, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioners, for yours, you recommended 3.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept this proposed salary ordinance, or salary paperwork.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Jeff Stringer,
Yes.
Michael Vanover,
Yes.
Blake Gerber.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0. And then we have your 2026 Commissioner and Lit Economic Development budgets. You increased your wages by 3%, and Judge Kirchhoff suggested increases of wages for public defenders to $75,000 each. Last year, they were $55,893. Social Security line, I increased by $50,000 just based on possible wages for 2026. Mental health will be set by the state, and I haven't received that yet. I think they have till it's either the 15th or the 30th of this month. In the Lit Economic Development, roads and bridges has increased to $750,000 annually, and the capital development line increased to $1 million. That has the pool and RSD in it.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. I mean, with what Kirchhoff wants to do, the council could change that, but we're presenting that,
It
so.
looks to me like he's trying to hold on to our public defenders.
He did say,
Shortage of them.
yes.
Yeah.
So
You definitely have a
I'll make a
shortage.
motion to accept the budgets of the,
I'll second that.
an ED.
Yeah, it looks reasonable to me.
Jeff Stringer,
Yes.
Michael Vanover,
Yes.
Blake Gerber.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0. That's all I have.
Okay. Comments, questions? Commissioners,
I have nothing else.
attorney, Story?
Nothing.
Anyone here? Please, come up.
Nothing about anything Brandon Harnish said, I just have a question.
Sure.
Okay. So they were talking about, there's an opium fund?
Opioid.
Opioid fund.
Fund that they are wanting to kind of incorporate into this fixing up the buildings in Wells County?
Blight.
It seemed to me like it just kind of ran together. There were three different,
Yeah, like.
yeah, correct.
Would it take
topics.
part of that fund, or all that fund,
Yeah, you
put
wanted,
it into beautifying, well, Bluffton?
yeah, my understanding was taking that money and directly using it for the removal of those buildings. As a matter of fact, Brandon's still here, so like, please, is that correct? Well, yeah, come on up. If you wouldn't mind asking that last part again, please.
So, from what I understood, you were wanting to take the part of the opium settlement and purchase buildings to beautify Wells County, Bluffton, to make it so it's not, doesn't get trashy, which I understand the theory on that. But my question is this: would that be all the opium supplement funds that you would be using?
So currently, there's a little over $300,000 in the fund. That fund receives deposits for approximately the next 10 years. We're asking for exactly $300,000. I know CADA had some priorities they were wanting to address, so we didn't ask for the entire amount. We wanted to leave that there. But that was our request, was the $300,000. Currently, there might be about $305 in the account in the fund.
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
just, I drive for the Southern Wells School, and I do want to say that drugs, I've had quite a few kids that have came through that have died from drugs, overdoses. When people say, I hear people say pot's just okay, and this is okay, and I think, no. I don't have a lot of kids that have died from other things, but I have a lot of kids that have died from drugs. I don't think anybody in Southern Wells would have not done that if buildings were like nicer in Bluffton, Indiana. I don't think that would have changed that, is what I'm trying to say. I'm saying if we have a $300,000 opium settlement fund that is supposed to help change the drug problem that we are facing, the increase of kids getting on these, and I have a cousin right now she's probably going to lose her daughter because she's hooked on fentanyl. She's a beautiful girl. She did horse and pony, she was active and stuff, and this is what we're facing in our community. I don't know that I just think that there's probably a better thing we can do with that money. I'm not trying to be mean to you.
I don't feel like.
I'm just saying, I think there's something else we can do.
That's the solution. I mean, we've been searching for.
I do have an idea.
My time.
Please, sure.
13.
I have an idea.
Bring it.
First of all,
Bring it.
I think we need to start teaching it in the school to the little kids, young kids.
I don't
I
know
think-
when DARE started. Middle school?
DARE, I'm not saying just a couple of, what does DARE go in, like a week or something and do like a little program?
My kids are out of school now, so I can't tell you.
Are they
the
still
exact-
doing it? Because I have grandkids and I don't hear about DARE.
I don't think that.
I don't think they're doing it. I don't think we're going into these schools and giving them the harsh reality of what's going to happen to you if you start doing drugs. I don't see anything, if we really, really want to convince children not to do drugs, we have to give them the harsh reality. We have to let them know from the very young age. I mean, I'm telling my grandkids, and they're like 5 and 4, what drugs can do to them. Because it is that serious. So I think about what kept me off from doing drugs was being scared of what drugs could do to you. Realizing that I didn't want a life like that, so why start it? So I don't know, if we have a $300,000 fund, I don't know why we couldn't, we got 3 schools in this county, start a program that's going into these schools and reaching to these kids, and on a serious note, and even so, maybe even have some counseling with that, where they can, if they are struggling, that we could start doing, helping these kids. I know a mom that can't afford to send her kid to rehab. She can't get her off of meth. That's what I think would help, and I certainly know, I understand making things beautiful, but I also understand if you buy a building in the Wells County Hospital, what kind of money are you gonna fix it up? Because that's gonna take. So you have to have a plan beyond that. You can't just say, we'll buy it, and then we, there has to be a plan behind that on what it's gonna take to where you wanna go with that.
So I can tell you the commissioners have complete authority to approve 300, 250, 200, 100. So if there's a competing program out there that would address more short-term causes, right, like I mentioned earlier, this is more of a long-term project. No doubt about it, if somebody's hooked on drugs right now, a revitalized community is not going to directly address their needs.
I don't
So
think.
if there's another option, I encourage anybody to bring it to the commissioners.
Drugs aren't, okay, just an example. I have a friend that was a social care person, and the government came out and they said, if we made these guys' lives better, they would probably stop beating on their kids and start taking care of them. So they went in and they bought like $6,000 they spent on these people to make their lives better, thinking that would help them to stop being these awful people that are abusing their kids and stuff. So what did people start doing? Their friends started abusing their kids so they could get $6,000. My point is, I just think, I don't care what you do with the rest of it, but when it comes to that opioid settlement fund, I think you can find a better way to use that money and use it for the whole entire county. That's what I'm saying.
The opioid funds are distributed to all cities and towns, so Wells County's portion is, Ossian gets some, City of Bluffton gets some, Paneto gets some, so this isn't the only money, just to say.
Well, so I'm just saying, before we say, oh yeah, let's use it for that, I really want us to really start working on fixing the drug problems that we have
I
in our
can tell you,
community.
if my request to the commissioners encourages other stakeholders in the community to start thinking about how we can address drug abuse, and I don't get what I'm asking for, I'll walk away happy.
Absolutely.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Capstone is having a presentation at Norwell within the next 30 days. Please put that out there, everybody. There's dozens of people in the community that went through that down in, I think it's Arkansas or Alabama. It's a great program. Please, what it's for.
And I would do I think they discontinued a lot of those programs in schools for a reason. And I think if you go back, don't take my word for it, I'd go back and look at the statistics and why they did that, and why some of those programs failed. You might want to just take a peek at that. And I would encourage you to please come back and share, what you find. And if you have other ideas, we're all ears, because we're in this with you.
Well,
absolutely.
So I'm going to interject. I think I'm looking at the correct page. Do either Councilman Harnish or the auditor understand that this is accurate? Over the term of the opioid settlement, the state of Indiana will be providing unrestricted funds of approximately $292,000 to Wells County and approximately $696,000 in restricted funds. Is that your understanding as well?
I understand that funds are intended to come in.
And that's an estimate. They don't know exactly how much, but that would be the Wells County portion. Does that sound correct, Ms. Auditor? Okay. So, not fully understanding or having all of the accountings in front of us about what is restricted and what is unrestricted. We do know. And then the city of Bluffton will receive $145,000 on a unrestricted, as well as $345 on a total abatement share. Ossian will be receiving funds, Paneto, Uniondale, Vera Cruz, and Zanesville. So all of those political subdivisions are anticipated to be receiving funds from the state of Indiana, distribution from the opioid settlements.
And I think the distinction to be made too, the beautification was probably part of that other program that we're talking about, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I think what JRAC was saying, when you got all of the law enforcement professionals, all the people with community corrections and all those stakeholders together, They said, we want to eliminate some of these vacant spaces where we're getting frequent calls of drug use and drug distribution.
understood
Yeah.
that too.
Okay, good.
I
Not
understood that too.
beautification, yeah,
I just know
Places.
how that works, I just change the location,
right,
in my opinion.
right.
If I'm.
No, I'm not arguing.
When I was a
Like, it's
teenager,
very
I did
difficult.
alcohol when I
Right,
was
you always found a
teenager.
place, I get it. I
Figured
get
it out.
Absolutely,
Just saying.
no doubt. Kids are crafty.
Excellent.
But I get it. Thank you for speaking up.
And there is information on this at the indiana.gov Attorney General Home Opioid Settlement webpage. So if you do no, I can't, but if you just do a search of the Indiana Attorney General for the opioid settlement, you should be able to go to an extensive webpage on the subject.
Any other comments? Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Absolutely.
Seconded.
Motion carried. Right?
Jess Stringer,
Yes.
Michael Vanover.
Yes.
Blake Gerber.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. We are adjourned.